Hello, I'm Ed Reed, the editor of E-FWD, and I'm here today with Mark Neller from Arup. Mark, hello. Thanks for having us here at Arup. Very excited to be here. Tell us a little bit about Arup and how you got to where you are.
Sure. Welcome to Arup, Ed. It's great to have you here. So Arup is a global multidisciplinary engineering consultancy. We're actually owned by the members, so we're not answerable to any shareholders or any banks, which gives us a huge amount of independence. Arup has been doing work in the energy sector since the 1940s, and so we have a really strong heritage of applying that global engineering consultancy expertise to the energy challenge. From a personal perspective, I'm a mechanical engineer, started my career in gas distribution and went to electricity distribution, and I've been with Arup now for just coming up for 19 years.
I suppose, we're sitting here, thinking about sort of the energy transition, thinking about the sort of the opportunities and the challenges, right? What sort of part does Arup have to play in that kind of big picture?
Great. So because we're member owned, we've made this decision that we want to focus all of our efforts on a fair, just, equitable energy transition to low carbon solutions in a way that makes sure that energy is affordable for all and that we are helping countries become energy independent. So our kind of role focuses on that implementation. And so we have a view at Arup that to really have an impact in the energy transition, you need an engineering solution that works, you need a project that can be delivered, something that can be financed, and a real understanding of what it means for stakeholders, what does it mean for people, what does it mean for communities. So we bring all of that kind of multidisciplinary thought together to the energy transition problem, and we think about it through those four lenses in order to make things happen and get stuff done. And the kind of services that we offer ranges all the way from strategic advice for government, right the way through the financing of projects, project development, planning and consenting, helping design solutions and then take them into operations, and helping companies deal with that energy transition, what it means for them, how to operate those new assets.
At E-FWD, we're always kind of thinking about growth, right? And I feel like, obviously we're not alone, government also very keen to look at how to grow the economy. And it feels like there's a real sort of an opportunity there. How do you see growth playing out for Arup?
So firstly, from a sort of a personal perspective at Arup, we've seen a huge amount of growth in our energy work. And so what we've been able to do is we've repurposed a lot of the expertise and skills that we had in oil and gas from our heritage into the clean energy space. We've also been running bespoke training programs to train our consultants that maybe have been used to working in the rail sector or the highways sector to come and work in the energy space. We've been taking early careers people into Arup in the energy sector as well, with very specialist skills. And we've also been recruiting people in mid-career into our leadership program and our leadership academy. So we've been building our team and our capacity and our capability to deliver those services to clients. I think looking at it more broadly across the economy, the opportunity to use the energy transition to grow the economy, to build jobs is absolutely enormous. And that's both within the consultancy sector, in the construction sector, and into supply chains. So some of the work that we've been doing recently for both Scottish Government and the UK Government has been looking at how do you bridge that gap between supply and demand, between developers and supply chain, in order to de-risk investments. So investment in port infrastructure to support offshore wind, for example. We've been helping build those bridges and overcome those communication barriers. And we've been also running some of the government's grant funding mechanisms to de-risk investment for the private sector that generates jobs in the manufacturing base and in the supply chain. I think that's a really positive story that needs to be told to the public about how the energy transition is all about growth and jobs.
I suppose at the risk of sort of making you pick a favourite child, is there sort of one sort of area that is of particular interest to you at the moment? Is there one sort of area of growth? I don't know, nuclear. People talking about that a lot at the moment. People talking about offshore wind. What's tickling your fancy?
Yeah, well, I think so. At Arup, we're heavily involved in all of those clean technologies. So We're the UK government's nuclear technical advisors. So the recent announcements you've seen about small modular reactor program and the movement of with Rolls-Royce being as the preferred technology for first demonstrator, we've been heavily involved in that. Also, that we're looking forward to the next round of leasing for seabeds. We saw the Celtic Sea announcement recently. Arup been supporting and working with the Crown Estate to support the leasing round process. I think though that perhaps the one that we're most excited about at the moment and is sort of front of my mind is the work we're doing for National Grid on the Great Grid Partnership. We're acting for National Grid, helping them design the new substations and the new overhead lines that are required to move all of that renewable energy that's being generated in the North Sea into the demand centres where it's needed as we start to decommission the gas-fired power stations, and we see the repurposing of the coal-fired power station sites for other things. So we're really excited and proud to be a key player with National Grid in that transmission investment that's absolutely vital to see the government achieve its Clean Power 2030 objectives.
And I suppose looking ahead, I feel like you mentioned Clean Power 2030, and it feels like a big hill to climb. If you had to pick sort of one challenge, right? What should we be keeping an eye on? What can we do to kind of overcome it?
Well, I think the government's taken a lot of positive steps forward with looking at the connections queue. So we've seen NESO, the National Energy System Operator, announce its process for reordering the queue. And whilst that's put some projects on pause during the uncertainty, we're looking forward to organisations getting their new connections dates aligned around that 2030 commitment. So those that are essential for delivering Clean Power 2030 will be towards the front of the queue, and so they'll get connections dates that enable them to meet those dates. I think that's a really important thing that's moving forward. So interesting to look at when that all gets brought to fruition, and looking forward to the market moving again when there's certainty around those dates. The other thing I think that's going to be really important is the auction round 7 and seeing the output of that, seeing the bidders, the price point for those, and that getting things moving. And I think the other really important piece there will be also seeing those projects that I just mentioned with National Grid and also with SSE, getting those transmission lines delivered on time in accordance with the programme.
Because I suppose looking at the various parts you've referenced there, the grid, AR7, all these, it feels like a lot of component parts that we've got to kind of get together at the same time. How do you feel that the UK is doing in terms of that sort of broader sort of holistic, moving things forward at the same time all over the country? Yeah,
there are a lot of moving parts. And I think that sort of is going to require a really strong appreciation actually of the interfaces between those individual projects and programs, and not just from a technical kind of engineering perspective, but from a delivery perspective, from an economic perspective, from a financial perspective. If you look in the industrial clusters, for example, the need to choreograph the investment decision-making process between the carbon capture, between the pipelines, between the stores, all of that needs a lot of really careful project and program management, a really strong understanding of the interfaces, and really importantly, an understanding of what allows an executive board to make a really big financial investment decision to invest in that kind of infrastructure. How does it all get lined up? How does it all get choreographed? So I think there is more work to be done around that coordination of those projects that unlocks them and allows them to move into implementation phase and into delivery in time to meet that Clean Power 2030 target.